What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Driver Show DFS for Dough here on RotoGrinders. Another week of golf action in front of us. Maybe a little bit of a hangover this week, the old week after a major hangover, particularly the week after the last major of the year hangover. But we can recap the Open Championship from last week and look ahead to this week's 3M Open in Minneapolis. So still some good money to be out there, to be won out there. I was surprised at the size of the contest coming up this week. So with baseball on the All-Star break, surely there'll be many more eyes on the golf content this week as well. So we'll try to bring you the best information that we have as usual, even though the tournament might not be as exciting as what we had last week. So I am Justin Van Zuiden, a.k.a. STL Cardinals 84. We'll be hosting the proceedings for you. I've got Mr. Notorious Derek Farnsworth alongside me, and Noto, another outright hit for you with Cam Smith last week. So congrats on that. How you doing?
Yeah, doing good. Cam ended up saving the day for me. DFS lineups weren't looking great. I was pulling for you in the Millie Maker, which I think we've talked about this on the show before, but being profitable in a Millie Maker is just so hard to do unless you really have a high finish. And you were able to accomplish that goal. So big props to you for that.
Yeah, it was a little strange. About halfway, 2/3 of the way through Sunday's rounds, I was 5th and 8th in the Millie Maker, and both of those lineups had both Rory and Hovland. If you would have swapped Cam Smith's round with Hovland, and Hovland would have done that and won the tournament, it probably would have been a different story for me there at the end of the day. But it's really hard to win $1 million. That's definitely the closest sweat that I've had, even though it didn't work out there at the end of the day. Sunday, top lineup ended up being one with Cam Smith and Hovland and Fleetwood and Bryson. So 4 members of the top 10. And then Lucas Herbert, who was 15th, and Bobby Mack in 34th. So 1st, 4th, 4th, 8th, 15th, and 34th. Still only good enough for 28th place. And that only gets you $1,500 in the Millie Maker. But still profited. So that was the first time, I think, that I've profited in my max entering a Millie Maker. And my two best lineups were lineups number 149 and 150 out of 150. So glad I max entered, I guess. But it was still, I wish I would have entered more contests because those lineups would have been pretty much, near the top of some smaller field stuff. But it's really hard to win $1 million, and Hovland and Rory kind of sank that ship a little bit. But it was still a fun week, fun tournament, really entertaining golf. And a big names there at the top of the leaderboard. So it was a fun week nonetheless.
Yeah, great week. Other than Tiger missing the cut, I think a lot of people thought he would play a little bit better. And it was just hole number 1, man. Shot himself in the foot, ended up missing a 3-footer. His drive ended up in a divot on that first hole and just never really could turn it around. So that was painful, but the farewell to St. Andrews was kind of cool when he was walking up 18. And then we got a great weekend. It kind of seemed like those 4 guys separated themselves from everyone else in Rory, Hovland, Cam, and Cam. And I kind of thought, Cam Smith was out of it after he, made that decision on Saturday. I don't know how many people saw it, but he was just like a foot away from going in the bunker. And he stood in the bunker and tried to hit a baseball swing type of a shot and went right into the gorse bush, and kind of thought that, his tournament was over at that point, but just put together one of the better Sunday rounds that we'll ever see at a major. And the rest is history.
And Rory becomes the first player to have a 54-hole lead in a major, and in the final round hit all 18 greens in regulation and still not win the tournament. 2-putted every single hole on Sunday, 36 putts. The 2 birdies that he had were holes where he had eagle putts and 2-putted for birdies. So 36 putts for Rory. I mean, it's not like he played bad. The tee to green game was still fantastic, and just didn't get enough putts to drop, which sometimes happens on a course like that. So it's not like he lost it. I mean, that might be the narrative that some try to throw out there. He choked another one away, but I mean, he was bogey free on Sunday. He hit every single green in regulation, and Cam Smith made 6 birdies on the back 9. That's just what happens in golf. It's It's really interesting to see that he hit every green and still didn't win after effectively, after Hovland faded. Rory basically went into that round with a 4-shot lead if you take Hovland out of the mix. So just incredible.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. And a lot of people are comparing Rory's, Sunday round to Tiger Woods, how Tiger would just play all the smart shots. And that's what he was doing. He'd, avoided all the bunkers, hit all the greens, and he just couldn't get any putts to drop. He probably could have been a little more aggressive on a couple of the holes, but I do think he got a little bit of a bad break on the par 5. If he would have ended up, left of where he was or right of where he was, he would have had a much easier shot on his 3rd. He had to putt up over that big hill, couldn't afford to have it, come up short and go all the way back. And so he just blasted it 15 feet by. And once he parred that one, you kind of got the feeling that maybe this is Cam's tournament to win. And we got to talk about Cam's, 17th, his 2-putt from behind the bunker. That was something special.
Yeah, I mean, and we talked about it last week, just his wizardry with the short game, and that, the fact that could propel him to a victory if the course played a little easier. And it was just a fantastic shot, and just a reminder of his creativity. I mean, this is a course where there's several different ways you can play a lot of the different holes, and it obviously suits his game. And and now the live rumors are rolling with Cameron Smith. Whether that's true or not, who knows? But we're at some point now, we're through all the majors this year, whether it's Cam Smith or some other big name, there's going to be a big domino that falls. I mean, at what point does the PGA Tour kind of reach out the olive branch to try to work with Liv? Is it not going to happen as long as Monahan's there? It's going to become a story over the next few weeks when we got a lot of mediocre PGA tournaments. And you've got guys like former tennis pro Marty Fish getting sponsor invites this week. And like I saw Jeff Overton got added to the field today. Like eventually it's going to become something of a problem for the PGA Tour. Maybe we're already there. And I know it's the week after a major and the fields are always a little bit weaker, but where's this headed when we get a big domino or two to fall here over the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, it'll certainly be interesting. You got to expect some of the big names, especially maybe after the FedEx Cup. A lot of these guys are in pretty good spots to make a lot of money for the FedEx Cup. So, maybe they take their last paycheck from the PGA Tour and head out. And John Rahm had some interesting comments over the weekend. He was saying he wants the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour to, sort of make deals with the Live Tour. He was really mad about, he says, they kind of left out Sergio Garcia after he gave them their whole career and all this stuff. They turned their back on him is what, Rahm was saying. So once the best players in the world start, making comments like that, I think something's got to happen. But in terms of the field strengths, yeah, if you're going to run out a tournament every single week or 40 whatever weeks of the year, and you're going to lose guys each and every week to the Live Tour, it's just going to get worse and worse.
Yeah, it will definitely be interesting to monitor that and see where it heads going forward. It feels like there will be a breaking point at some juncture when the next big name decides to go. We'll see what happens. But the Live guys, pretty good weeks for a few of them last week. I talked myself into Bryson live on the show last week, and that worked out. He finished tied 8th. Dustin tied 6th. You had a couple other names that faded a little bit on the weekend, but still solid overall tournaments for some of the Live guys. So, it was nice week for Bryson for sure. He was the one that stood out for me. What else on the leaderboard kind of caught your eye this week?
I mean, Cam Young's driver, that thing is a weapon. He was blowing it past where Rory was hitting it 20, 30 yards on most of the holes, especially on the back nine there. Obviously drove the 18th and then made the big eagle putt. So he's going to be a guy that we need to watch out for. His wedges weren't great, but he got a couple of bad bounces there. And then he missed like that 2-footer on number 1 and only lost by 1. So he's someone to watch. Fleetwood, anytime you get him on links courses, I think we got to play him. Or any time away from America, even though he has been a little bit better this year. And then, you mentioned Bryson. I was surprised by how well he played. He didn't have a lot of full iron shots probably, so that probably helped him a little bit. But yeah, good call on that one. You talked us into that one. And then Dean, Burmeister, we had Drew on the Twitter Spaces. He brought him up. He had a really good week, one of the better value plays of the week. So, yeah, I feel like we had more good than bad. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention, Cam Smith ended up laying up on 18 2 of the first 3 days. He might have done it on the first day too. I didn't see where he hit it, but he was like the only one in the field to lay up, made par both days. So I was a little worried when he was heading to 18, with only a one-shot lead on Rory, but ended up taking out the driver, drove it up there on the fringe, and then two-putted.
So the first day, the hole actually played like 350 plus, and he drove the green in the first round.
Okay, so I don't know what.
He drove the green in the first round, and then he laid up the next 2 days. It was kind of strange. I'm not sure why, but
yeah, he was hitting irons. I just wasn't even close to the green.
Yeah, no, he drove the green the first round, made birdie. In fact, his drive was past his 364 was his drive on 18 to the back of the green in the first round. He was about 50 feet away. So, and also kudos to the Open for adding some respectable shot by shot data. That was useful.
It was. I didn't find out about it because it wasn't on the app. At least I couldn't find it on the app, but it was on the desktop and the mobile site. So I didn't find out about it until like Friday afternoon. I was like, oh man, where's this been? But it's a little less stressful when you don't know where your guy is on the show, I guess.
And when you're sweating $1 million, I can tell you it's a lot less stressful. And I don't know. It was nice to have it. Better than like the PGA Championship, whatever garbage they throw out for theirs every year.
What did you think of the course? You think it held up?
I mean, they can't make it when there's no wind. You just can't make the course be that hard unless you try to completely trick out the greens, and then you get what happened at the Players the 1 year. So the way it played, and we called it coming into the week that somebody might get to 20 under or 18 under, and that's what happened. So it played easier than what we usually see from a major, but it's just such a unique strategy element to that course that I don't have any qualms with the way it played. Like if you would have put in a bunch of rain and 30-mile-an-hour wind gusts like you sometimes get in Scotland, then the winning score is like -6 or -8. So no issues here.
Yeah, I thought it held up a lot better than I was expecting. I was a little bit worried heading into the week that we could get like a 30 under par or something like that. But the only thing I didn't love is I think there are 4 or 5 drivable par 4s. It just became like repetitive a little bit, but love the course, love everything about the event. So I'm with you. No complaints here.
Yeah, I think it's going to get difficult, with how firm and fast the course plays and how long guys hit it these days to distance proof some of those link style courses. It'll be interesting to see how they handle that, go back in 7 years to St. Andrews or whenever it is, what the strategy will be like then. But speaking of 30 under, maybe that's what we get this week with the 3M Open. We'll break that down here in a minute. But anything else? Any surprise miscuts? Anything else we haven't mentioned?
Did you see Xander try to get that drop from the gorse bush? That was pretty bad.
I did not.
Right in the middle of a gorse bush, and he was trying to tell the official that he could chip out from there, and there was a grandstand there. So he was trying to get a free line of sight relief from the gorse bush. Luckily, the official didn't fall for it. But yeah, I thought that was very strange on his part.
Was he playing with Phil or what?
He was right in the middle of it. There's no way he could have even gotten a swing on it, but he was saying he could have, and he would have aimed it right at the grandstand.
There were a lot of fairly popular names that just missed the cut. Louis Oosthuizen, Keith Mitchell had some ownership last week. Max Homa, Webb Simpson group, and Morikawa as well. That ended up one shot back of the cut line, so that did really swing the 6-6 percentage there as you got to Friday afternoon. And sometimes that's the beauty of golf with that cut sweat. We did have 83 players make the cut, and it was top 70 in ties. So, and that did end up making a difference. If it was top 65 in ties, we would have the even par guys would have gotten cut as well. So, all right, let's move to this week. Latest news on the PGA Tour. Ju Young Kim has gotten a special temporary membership, so good for him. He had a decent week last week and was fairly popular, and he'll be back in the field again this week. 3M Open up at TPC Twin Cities this week. 4th year we've had this event at the same course. What do we got to look forward to this week?
Yeah, if you like birdies, you'll probably like this event. It's a par 71, over 7,400 yards, but all 3 of the par 5s are under 600 yards, so they are very gettable. Should see a lot of long irons this week. 4 of the par 3s are over 170 yards, and then you got a couple long par 4s and the 3 par 5s. So if you do want to look at proximity, I think 175 plus makes a lot of sense. And then there's a lot of wedges hit here too, just not a lot from 125 to 175. So I kind of left that out of my proximity numbers. You're going to see a lot of drivers. The average driving distance here is much higher than tour average. Pretty much everything's a little bit easier than tour average. Off the tee approach, around the green putting. The fairway is really wide. The greens are big. They're easy to hit. The only defense really is the water. It's in play on 15 of the holes. And I think this is like the 3rd highest percentage of penalty shots where you have to re-hit it from the same exact spot, which means you're going to be having to carry it over large bodies of water. And if you hit it in, you're just going to be dropping from where you're standing most likely. That's about it. I think the bomber angle makes sense. I think putting angle makes sense because the greens are easy to hit. But, yeah, just make some birdies.
And that's the defense of the course is the water. That's it.
Yep.
That's where the trouble comes in. If you're not in the water, you're fine. So don't hit it in the water. Easier said than done. If you're a terrible golfer like me, you just aim for the water because it's not going to go where you aim it. And the tour pros may be a little better than that. But that's the defense the course has is the water hazards. So you will see some penalty shots this week. Not a very strong field, so this is probably a week where it's not going to take us super long to get through it. We do have a handful of names, maybe only about a dozen or so that played last week at the Open Championship that are playing again this week. We did have some that played at the Barracuda, the alternate field event last week, which of course was held in the States. So no major travel there, but are you worried about the travel angle and the hangover effect for any of the golfers who did play last week and are still in the field here?
I mean, everything else being equal, I think I would rather have the guys that played, in America rather than the guys that played in the Open. But I don't think I'm going to cross anyone off my list just because they've been playing overseas.
Yeah, I mean, it's mainly the good golfers too that are the ones priced near the top that did play last week. We do have our first batch of ownership projections in, not super refined yet, but we don't have a lot of top-end golfers this week. The first thing you'll notice, we almost always talk about how there's like 6 names above 10K on DraftKings. There's only 3 above 10K this week, and then there's only 4 more above 9K. So there's only 7 golfers at or above $9,000 on DraftKings. There's only 13 golfers at or above the average salary that you have to spend per golfer. What that's going to mean this week is that all the high-end golfers are going to have significantly higher ownership than what you would expect, simply because there's not a lot of them, and the pricing, whereas they usually kind of make it relative with the field strength, they didn't quite do that this week. And so the pricing structure, a lot of times, where it's more difficult on DraftKings, it kind of resembles what FanDuel usually does this week. And that's why you're going to see likely 30% plus on a lot of these high-end guys. There isn't a way to differentiate your lineups with the top end this week. Just don't worry about it. Play who you want on the top end, and then we'll get to the differentiation plays as we get a little bit cheaper. But there just aren't a lot of expensive options this week in the salary structure. So what does that do to how you plan to start your lineup building?
Yeah, that's a great point. And it's something that you can't get away from because you have to spend your salary. So I don't know what it's going to do necessarily. I think ownership up top is going to matter if you can find those low-owned guys. But I think everyone's just going to get some ownership and then maybe just try to differentiate down low, like you mentioned. But one other thing to keep in mind, I mean, 2 weeks ago, we thought Hideki to live was a done deal. And now we're hearing Finau might withdraw this week. So it could get really ugly. I mean, if those two end up being out.
Yeah, definitely something to monitor. And it'll end up becoming free squares at the top. I had not seen the Finau deal yet. What is the story there?
He's reportedly going to live, or speculated to go to live. Somebody was tweeting that he was going to withdraw this week, but I haven't seen nothing official yet. So just rumors at this point.
Yeah, lots of rumors.
Hey, like we said, he's got all those kids to feed, so surprised he's not there already.
That's right. All right. Well, we've only got 7 golfers that are above 9K. So your thoughts on the top right now? We've got Finau as the chalk. I mean, he's played here all 3 years, finished top 30 every time. So,
yeah, hard not to like Finau. The bent grass greens are always a positive for me. He's a pretty average putter on anything else, and he's very good putter on bent grass. Played really well on Sunday at the Open, so I'll have a lot of him. Sungjae is the interesting one. I mean, he's coming off of 3 missed cuts in a row. He did have a 15th here back in 2019 in his only appearance, but he's kind of, it feels 10K for a guy missing 3 cuts in a row. You don't get that very often. So I'll be interested to see his ownership. I don't have a great take on Hideki. He hasn't been playing great the last couple of weeks. He's always a threat to WD. So I think Finau's my clear choice up here, but I think that's going to be everyone else's take as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's his early ownership is the highest we've seen on a top end golfer for a while. Again, some of it's a function of the other options, some of it's a function of the salary makeup this week, which is going to make this one of the strangest weeks that we've had for lineup building in quite some time. And I'm kind of with you. I don't really trust Hideki right now. I don't really trust Sungjae right now. Give me Finau up there, and I probably don't even have an issue Xing out the others. Unless Finau also withdraws, in which case, you got to play somebody. But I think you can even start your lineup builds if you want, even for single entry. Maybe you started in the 9s and just make a nice balanced build with guys in there. So you got Theegala. We've seen his upside a lot lately. He played pretty well last week on a course that you maybe wouldn't have expected for him to play that well. Hadwin has played well here in the past. Davis, Riley, Cameron Davis, those are some guys that have shown some upside lately. So I don't, especially if Finau ends up not playing, which again, we don't know for sure. You gotta like some of these guys in the 9Ks as potential starting points.
For sure. I like Theegala quite a bit. You mentioned he's been playing a lot more consistent lately. Long off the tee, really good short game too when he gets around the greens. So I think he's interesting. McNeely should be very popular. If you're looking for a reason to fade him, so he played the Travelers, and then he played the JDC, and then he went over to the Scottish Open, and then came back and played the Barracuda. So he's been traveling a bunch, and this is his 5th week in a row. I still think he's a great play. He's 3 for 3 here. Or no, sorry, he's 1 for 1 here, T16 here last year. But I don't know, 5th week in a row, and traveling to Europe. Was he just trying to get a spot in the Open?
Could have been. I don't know. Yeah. But that is a bit strange, especially to play the Barracuda after that.
Yeah. It seemed a little weird to me, but it's a good price point. He's been, 3 straight top 20s. Hadwin's interesting, guy that can get hot with the putter, hot with the irons. And then Davis Riley, 30% for him. I mean, it's hard to make an argument against him, especially in this field. So I don't know. Do you have any strong takes on any of these guys?
Yeah, I mean, I do like with the way that Riley's been playing, and the fact that he tends to be pretty aggressive. Like, I'll shoot for upside, and I was kind of hoping maybe a little bit lower owned. We'll see where it goes. But given the fact that Riley hasn't played here, I haven't played him all that much, but like I think going for the aggressive guys that can make a lot of birdies and hopefully keep it out of the water. You got to get scorers here. So I do like Riley.
Yeah, I think I do too. Bill in the chat says Fox and Power were very disappointing last week. I'll one up you. Justin Rose was very disappointing last week.
So I thought that Rose was like the last guy I excluded from my player pool. And I went through all of Thursday thinking I had no Justin Rose. And then I looked afterwards and I had like 22% Justin Rose. Still had a really good week and still had, was well above the field in 6-6 percentage. But I did have some Justin Rose. Yes, that was frustrating. And I didn't say, did you see this Seamus Power chalk coming? I did not see that. I like him being chalk in that that type of tournament.
Yeah, that was a little surprising. I don't know. I didn't see the full ownership percentages in terms of the waves, but it did look like there was an early late wave advantage before lineup locks. Maybe he was in the right wave anyway, because I thought about him in my main lineup.
All right. That's it for 9K options. There's only 7 of them, and the bottom half of this field is terrible. So, we've stalled for time a little bit talking about last week, talking about live, and just the nature of the tournament this week. So, let's go ahead and go into the 8Ks, where even there, we've still only got like 8 options between 8 and 8,900. So again, we're still going to see ownership congregate here. Right now, we've got Ches Reavie as the lowest owned, and I believe he won the Barracuda last week. I think, pretty sure
he did. Yes.
So it's the fade the winner narrative, I guess. But what are your thoughts on some of these guys?
Yeah, so I was going to bring up the 2 recent winners right here. You have Reavie. Last time he won on tour, missed his next 2 cuts. Not that that matters, but if anybody wanted to know. And then
was it about 16 years ago?
Yeah, he won didn't he win in Phoenix a couple years ago? He won the Travelers, I think. Anyway, and then JT Poston won the JDC, went to the Scottish Open, missed the cut. I'm probably okay being underweight on those 2 guys, especially since I want a little bit more distance off the tee anyway. Everyone else I kind of like. You have Cam Davis at the top. He's been in great form. He's got 3 top 10s in his last 5 starts. He's also got a good track record here. Tringale just continues to play pretty well. He tends to be pretty streaky too. He's got a good skill set for this course. Brendan Still, so his ball striking, plus 11.3, plus 8.5, plus 9.4. That's as good as anyone on tour in their last 3 events. I like Brendan Still. And then at the very bottom, I like Nick Hardy. 5 straight top 35s. He's just a guy that I think we haven't seen his best on tour yet.
Yeah, we've been riding the Nick Hardy train for a while, so certainly in this field, we've got to keep up with that. So I like Hardy at 8,000 as well. Don't have a lot of strong love for a lot of other guys in this range. Like, I'm fine with them. I'll probably end up going underweight on some of the chalkier options in here. Adam Long at 20%, I'll probably be underweight on that. I do like Davis and I do like Hardy bookending the 8K range, and you make a good point there about the way Steele has been playing. So what do you make of Poston long-term now after, obviously, again, he won a terrible field event at the John Deere, but we've seen guys win the John Deere and then take off. Spieth's won there, DeChambeau's won there. So what does that do for Poston? Always a talented, kind of inconsistent guy. Does he kind of take that leap forward and become a consistent guy, or is that just a flash in the pan?
Well, I mean, prior to this year, he was always a short game specialist, a lot like, Mackenzie Hughes, somebody like that. But if you look at his game log from this year, he's gained off the tee in almost every event he's played in. And then over his last couple months, he's been on fire with the iron. So if his ball striking is anywhere near it has been in the last couple months, I think he could be a lot better than we've seen in the last couple of years. So we know the putter can get hot. It just comes down to, if the off the tee can sustain itself.
Yeah, well, good for him getting that win. I'm with you this week, though. I don't think it's necessarily the spot to go in on him, but nothing against him in the long term. All right, let's move into the 7Ks where we finally start to get some volume of players here. With the Goddard, who's been popular lately. You've got Ryan Palmer's been playing pretty decent golf. The old veterans, Jason Day, Ricky Fowler in here. What are your thoughts on kind of the mid to upper 7K range?
Whatever happened to Ricky going to live?
I don't know. Maybe they didn't invite him.
I swear they even they showed us the picture with him with the background and his signature. I thought we had even the official word, but I don't know. Ricky's here. I always root for him, but I think I've done chasing him in DFS. I've lost too much over the last couple of years doing that. Goddard's hard to get away from. Haskins Award winner, We've seen him top 5 already on the PGA Tour. He did struggle at the Barbasol, I think, but I mean, it was coming off of that top 5, and he was the favorite, and I think it just was bad timing there. I like Svensson, but he's going to be popular. He's one of the better iron players in the field. CT Pan's a guy that I tend to play more than most. And then I like Wyndham Clark at 7,500. If you want to play the bomber and putter combo, like similar to Cam Champ last year, that's kind of his skill set is, bombing and putting. Well, not long-term putting, but he has those, when he wins, he just gains a ton of strokes putting. And Wyndham Clark's kind of the same. He's long off the tee and good putter. Everything else is pretty average.
Everybody knows I'm a Adam Svensson truther, so I can't ignore Adam Svensson chalk week, even though he's going to be pretty popular. I can't miss out. If this is the week, I'll probably bet him too. Heck, I bet him at 400-1 a couple times. I got to bet him the 1 week he's got a decent shot.
He's been playing well.
Well, yeah, he has been. And that week scared me because I didn't bother the Barbasol. I think it was the week he ended up finishing like 6th or something. And he was tied for the lead there in the 3rd round. So I was afraid I had missed out. But if this is the week, we won't miss out. We'll have some Svensson, though he will be certainly the most popular player in that range. All right, let's move to the lower end of the 7K range. The aforementioned Ju Young Kim is in here with the special temporary membership, and we do finally start to see ownership spread out a bit in here. So this is where you start to make or break some lineups. What are your thoughts on the value side of the 7K range?
Yeah, I think it's hard not to look to Ju Young Kim. Thomas the Train is his nickname, and yeah, he's just been playing well. Hasn't let a lot of people down that have played him the last 2 weeks. I think the 11% ownership is a little light. I would expect that to go up throughout the week, especially because he's down to 60-1 in some books, and everyone around him is 80-100. So I think he'll be popular, but I like him quite a bit. I mean, he had never played links golf and went out, played well at the Scottish, played well at the Open. So I think his game kind of travels. Other guys, man, I don't know. We're starting to get in the ugly range here.
Oh, it's just an awful week. If you can't narrow your player pool down this week, you got issues narrowing it down because it's ugly.
The bomber putter narrative, you have Stuart Sink, who wasn't very good last week, but played well at the Scottish. And then Patton Kazire, he's down there. He's 3 for 3 at this event at 7,100. Tom Hoagie has won the Minnesota State Am twice, so he's got some local connections at least. And I was going to bring up somebody else. I think it was Troy Merritt is also from Minnesota. So if you want to play the local angle, it worked well with Van Ruyen that 1 year here.
And he has withdrawn due to injury, so that kept him out of the Open. No surprise that he's not teeing it up this week. So Doug Gim's back in the field this week, obligatory mention. Probably not playing him on a course where you need to make a ton of birdies and make some putts. Doug Gim does not make putts, so we'll pass on him this week. Let's see. I think Grayson Sigg is okay. We've only got him at about 3%. He's had some decent results lately. Just if you're looking for some more contrarian options in that range, as opposed to the Neesmiths, Clarks, Ju Young Kim that are probably going to see ownership in the double digits. Kazire, I like that call as well. I actually just tagged him. I think he played fairly well at the John Deere. This would be the type of event where maybe he could pop at low ownership. So Patton Kazire is on my radar as well.
I like it. And the last name, Bo Hostler. Very long off the tee, one of the better putters in the field. One of the worst approach guys in the field as well, but he's been a little bit more consistent lately.
All right, I started looking down into the 6Ks, and then I looked again, and I kept looking, and they all stink. It just is – it's not pretty. This is an ugly field, and you get down towards the bottom, and you're really, really fighting it. I think closing out your lineups, making that balanced build, there's not a lot of 10K guys this week, really not a ton of guys to spend up for. There really isn't much need to go deep down into the 6Ks. You either have guys that are most all of them are in bad form. Bryce Garnett is the one guy I picked out. He's finished 23rd, 26th, and 16th. in the 3 years at this event. And, the current form isn't great, but you're not getting that with a lot of guys down here. So half-hearted endorsement for Garnett at 6,900, but it's not like you got to go play him. I mean, right now we've got some ownership on Ryan Moore, who hasn't done anything of note lately. There's just not a lot down here. So does the model pop any names, or do you have any names under 7K?
Don't mind the Garnett call, but if I sort by point per dollar in my model, usually there's a couple of 6K guys that are, in the top 5 or 10. 23rd best value is the first 6K guy this week, which is, I've never seen that before. So it just goes to your point that the 6K range is pretty terrible. But it's Hank Lebioda, who this is where he had to withdraw after making the cut here last year. This was like his great run of form.
He was like 30% owned.
I finally played him. This is the first time I played him. And then he walked off 18 and withdrew right after that for a family matter. But he's been a little bit better lately. And so he's probably the one guy I think too.
All right. There's not much else down here. Like Justin Lower, we have getting some ownership. I don't know. Like you mentioned, they're just not popping as great point per dollar plays. There's not a ton to spend up on. Maybe finalize your rosters in the 7Ks. And it's just a fairly straightforward week. You're going to see ownership congregate, particularly if we get some withdrawals on some popular names. Like this is one week where I really hope we don't get that. Because then, like if Finau withdraws or Matsuyama withdraws, like you're going to see somebody at the top hit like 40%, even in the smaller dollar contest this weekend. That's just weird. Like DraftKings clearly didn't adjust their pricing algorithm to what it usually is, because these are probably the softest non-major tournament salaries that we've seen on DraftKings, at least in recent memory. So other thoughts, comments? We've gone almost 40 minutes, which I consider a W for this tournament, even though a lot of it was spent on last week. But anything else for this wonderful event?
No, I don't think so. And I mean, it definitely didn't help. Bazutenhow withdrew, Howell withdrew, Hubbard withdrew. Those are all guys that you would think would be a little more expensive. I think a couple of them are even in the 8Ks. But yeah, it's going to be an ugly week. Just pick your spots. Maybe take it a little bit lighter on the bankroll and enjoy the All-Star break for baseball. Yeah,
there's been probably about 12 guys withdraw and most of them were excluded from the salary list on DraftKings because they came out prior to, and FanDuel because they came out prior to salaries being released. But that could account for why the algorithm seems a little bit off. They did have, like you mentioned, they did have Hubbard and Howell still in there and Van Rooyen. So could account for why the algorithm's a little bit off this week. But even beyond those two guys, there were quite a few other field changes, before the salaries were released that have just kind of thrown this event off a little bit. But that's what we get the week after a major. Next week, we've got the Rocket Mortgage Classic in Detroit, another event that tends to be a fairly weak field, followed by the Wyndham Championship and the FedEx St. Jude as we get into the playoffs, the FedEx Cup playoffs in August. So with that, we'll go ahead and put a bow around our show for this week. Thanks to Noto for joining me. Of course, I'm Justin. Thanks to our producer, Steve, for working hard behind the scenes. And, of course, as Noto mentioned, enjoy the All-Star break, and we'll see you back on Thursday. Small slate of MLB games, so still kind of TBD what we'll have for content and stuff on Thursday with, I think, just like 3 day games and 3 night games. But we'll be back for sure for the full slate on Friday. And of course, we'll have you covered over at Scores and Odds with some sports betting picks. Check us out over there on scoresandodds.com if you're interested. And good luck with your golf lineups this week. So with that, we'll put an end to the show, and we will see you guys next week, same time, same place for the Rocket Mortgage Classic. Have a good week, everybody.